My next guest is a former Planned Parenthood director who became a prominent pro-life advocate. She speaks globally and shared her journey and encouraging activism. Her podcast, Politely Rude, explores various topics related to parenting, life, and politics. Abby Johnson joins us now to discuss her podcast, Sick and Twisted. Abby, welcome back to CFN Live, and I have to apologize for making you follow that story. I know it was very overwhelming for you as you watched it.
It was. I was over here crying and trying not to look like I was over here crying before I came on.
Well, we saw you. We saw what was going on. So, Abby, for our viewers who are not so familiar with your story, and I'm not sure who isn't at this point, tell us a little bit about yourself and that defining moment in September of 2009.
Sure. Well, I worked for Planned Parenthood for 8 years of my life. I was a clinic director there, an abortion clinic director, and left the abortion industry after witnessing a live ultrasound-guided abortion where I saw a 13-week-old baby fight and struggle for his life against the abortion instruments. And I knew then that there was life in the womb, that there was humanity in the womb, and I knew that I could no longer be a part of this industry. And so ever since then, I have been speaking out publicly against the horrors of the abortion industry and really trying to bring healing to those who have been affected, whether they work inside of the industry like I did, trying to bring them out and certainly bring them into a saving relationship with Christ. And also those who have been harmed by abortion, whether they have had an abortion themselves or they have taken someone to get an abortion, maybe they're parents of someone who has had an abortion. So just all around trying to help people heal from the wounds of abortion because it affects so many.
Yeah, and the wounds are deep. And, certainly as a priest, I've encountered many people who really weren't even aware at the moment in time where they were either supporting someone or they were experiencing it themselves. And that's why I love that one of the ministries that you founded, you call pro-love ministries, that we are not anti, we are pro-life, pro-love. And I love that that's the image that you're putting forward. But putting that in context, pro-love, you have a podcast called Politely Rude with Abby Johnson. Tell us a little bit about the podcast.
Yeah, so I started that podcast a long time ago, many years ago. We've had many, many guests on. And one of the ministries I run is called And Then There Were None, which is kind of Pro-Love Ministries is an umbrella organization. We have many, many projects, many different projects that we run through Pro-Love Ministries. And Then There Were None is one of those organizations. And Then There Were None is an organization that helps abortion clinic workers leave the abortion industry and come into a saving relationship with Jesus Christ. We have helped over 700 men and women do just that. And, I hate to say it, Father, but the majority of workers, if they come into our ministry with the Faith Foundation, they are actually baptized Catholics. And so our primary goal then is to get them back into the sacraments. And, that first step is getting them into confession. And it's really interesting because we have a couple of the people that work for our ministry are Protestant. And one time I took one of them with me to go bring a worker to confession, a former worker to confession. And she was amazed because she said, Abby, I've never seen someone have a literal physical change in their appearance after leaving confession. And so it was really incredible for a Protestant to witness that in someone, to witness that physical change in someone. So, but yeah, we I was sitting one time at a conference and I was thinking about some of the similarities between what we have seen with abortion doctors, not all abortion doctors, but some of them, and serial killers. And, some of the similarities are this. Serial killers, a lot of times they have trophies They take specific things from the crimes that they commit. And they have a pattern. And a lot of times they have a signature. And I started thinking about a lot of the women and men that have come to us and the things that they have told us about the doctors that they've worked for and things that we know about abortion doctors that have come out in the public. And I started to think about how some of those similarities do coincide with serial killers and abortion doctors. And so I wanted to do a little series on my podcast, Politely Rude, called Sick and Twisted. And so that is what we did, comparing the two. And we looked at some of these abortion doctors, a lot of them that are publicly known, Dr. Warren Hearn, Dr. Curtis Boyd, Leroy Carhart, Dr. Kermit Gosnell, and we kind of compared them. Can we look at some of the similarities that they have, and can we actually say, is this person an abortionist, or do they have the tendencies to actually call them a serial killer?
Yeah. And the whole true crime genre has really taken off, right? People are, interested in it. And it kind of bothers me a little bit. I'm like, these are real stories. People's lives were lost. What's the purpose of telling these stories? But here, you're really, I think, trying to, in many ways, take not glorifying in some ways the killer, but rather saying, this is really what we're talking about here. And I'm sure it's going to be received as provocative. I'm sure there's going to be people who are going to be horrified that you would compare those who are providing abortions to serial killers. But hopefully it does make some impact. Have you seen any of that already as the podcast has been rolled out? Have you seen some of that opinion on both sides?
Yeah, we have definitely. We've seen it on both sides. But a lot of people are emailing and saying, I have never thought of this before, but this makes complete sense, the way that you're breaking it down in the podcast. A lot of people are saying, oh my gosh, I have wondered about this, and the way that you have broken it down, the stories you have told, this confirms what I thought. A lot of people are saying, I would have disagreed with you, but now that I've listened to this and you have, laid this out so clearly, how could I disagree with what you're saying? We're talking about things that I think a lot of the public doesn't even know. One of the doctors in the series, upon his death, they found thousands of aborted babies in the trunk of his car that he had been hoarding. They found thousands of aborted babies in his home that he had been hoarding. Those were essentially his trophies. One doctor has a signature thing that he says to every single woman after he kills their child, and is very proud of it, is very proud of the work that he does. He's killed, probably over 60,000 children by now. It's bizarre. One doctor, a lot of the doctors that we talk about in this podcast actually kept trophies of the aborted babies that they had killed, either in the office, in their home. Even things from the women that they were, taking the lives of these children from, the patients, they were keeping trophies from the women, pictures of different body parts of the women, taking Polaroids of them without the women knowing, keeping them in a book. These are things that you would see from a serial killer. These are things that, and I'm certainly not saying that every abortionist is like this, but I think it's important for us to talk about these things because there is a glorification of abortion doctors in the pro-choice movement. I remember when Dr. George Tiller was killed, I was working in the abortion industry at that time. And I remember, Father, that the abortion industry put out saint cards for Dr. George Tiller, and everyone was calling him Saint George because they were looking at him as some sort of hero because he was murdering children. So we need to understand, and we need to be talking about these doctors as they truly are. these are people who are murdering children. And yes, they need our prayers. And yes, they need conversion. And yes, Jesus wants to forgive them of their sins. But we also need to be very honest about what they're doing and what is taking place inside of these facilities.
Abby, thank you so much for having the courage to say these things, to put them out there. People can follow the series wherever podcasts are found, I assume, correct?
Yes. Anywhere podcasts are found, you can listen. It's also on my website, abbyj.com. We have all of my podcasts uploaded there.
Oh, thank you so much, Abby, for being with us today. Wishing you a very blessed new year as well.
Thank you so much.